Let's tell you about the Foreign Secretary, David Cameron. He is in Israel for talks with the Israeli President, Benjamin Netanyahu, as the world waits for their response to Iran's large-scale air attack. Meanwhile, the US has announced a fresh wave of sanctions on the country, which will be imposed in the next few days. Speaking earlier this morning, Lord Cameron said the situation in the Middle East is very concerning and that Britain wants to see coordinated sanctions against Iran.
Foreign Secretary, how concerned are you by Israel's plans to retaliate against Iran?
Well, look, it's right to be here in Israel today to show solidarity after that appalling attack by Iran. We made clear our views yesterday about what should happen next, but we also said Israel is an independent, sovereign country and gets to make these choices. We continue to hope that as they do so in a way that is smart as well as tough, but also does as little as possible to escalate this conflict. But I'm also here to focus back the eyes of the world onto the hostage situation. 192 days those people have been held. Hamas should release them now, and there is a good deal for them on the table. The only reason the conflict continues in Gaza is because they won't take that deal. We need the hostages out, we need the aid in, and I'll be discussing that with the Israeli government and with the Palestinian Authority as well.
And how concerned are you that we're right on the brink of a full-scale regional war here?
Well, the situation is very concerning. It's right to show solidarity with Israel. It's right to have made our views clear about what should happen next, but it's clear the Israelis are making a decision to act. We hope they do so in a way that does as little to escalate this as possible, and in a way that, as I said yesterday, is smart as well as tough. But the real need is to refocus back on Hamas, back on the hostages, back on getting the aid in, back on getting a pause in the conflict in Gaza. That's why I'm here today, to talk to the Israeli government, to talk to the Palestinian Authority, to try and push those things forward.
Finally, you're off to foreign ministers at G7, Italy. What sanctions do you want?
Well, we want to see coordinated sanctions against Iran. Britain has in many ways led the way with our new sanctions regime, sanctioning dozens of people in Iran, sanctioning the IRGC in its entirety. And I think there's more that we can do to show united front that Iran is behind so much of the malign activity in this region, backing Hamas, backing Hezbollah, backing the Houthis. They need to be given a clear and unequivocal message by the G7, and I hope that will happen at the meeting.
Alistair standing by for us. Hello to you, Alistair. More sanctions.
Yeah, that is what the United States have announced. I suspect the UK will follow, and David Cameron will try and get support for that at the G7 meeting of foreign ministers in Italy when he flies there later. But first, meetings with Israeli leadership, also Palestinian leadership as well. I mean, you heard from him there as to what is going to be on the table. I thought what was quite interesting was the way he's trying to balance diplomatically pressure on the Israeli government, but also support for getting the hostages out. And the reason I say that is, in recent weeks, I would say the tone from David Cameron has been more on the critical side of things when it's coming to deal with Israel, critical about the lack of humanitarian aid in, critical about Israel's efforts or lack of efforts to do more to get aid in. Well, what he said earlier this morning was very different. He is concerned, like so many other world leaders, that Israel's retaliation against Iran, which looks like it's a dead cert now, will exacerbate the situation further, will potentially lead to a greater war. And so that is the pressure that he needs to put on him. That's the stick, if you like. The carrot in what he had to say there was, let's refocus on the hostages, something that is so important to the Israeli government and to the Israeli people. Let's refocus on the hostage crisis and trying to get a hostage deal to get them out of Gaza.